Welcome back to the show, Vinny.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
It's been a couple of years.
It has, dude. Yeah.
A lot's changed for you.
A lot, man. Yeah. It's been a fucking gnarly ride for sure.
Yeah. So, you got engaged or did you get married?
I got married. But we are now separated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed.
Yeah. To say the least, yeah, a lot has changed.
Okay. Well, just for people, because I have a lot of new followers now.
Yeah.
Let's give a quick recap of your story a little bit. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up New Haven, Connecticut area on the shoreline pretty much of Long Island Sound. And the typical growing up with the dream and passion of wanting to be famous and the Hollywood dream, and but that dream and passion slowly faded away because I got pretty hooked on heavy drugs throughout my whole 20s. So that kind of put my focus only on getting high.
That we related on because I spent my entire 20s in addiction too. Like I didn't find recovery until I was 31, almost 32 years old.
Yeah.
So
yeah, same. I got sober when I was 30.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I can relate to the 20s being a rough ride and learning, about how to live life for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I definitely I wasn't the type of person to kill myself because I was miserable, but I am definitely the type of person to take things to the extreme. When it comes to getting loaded and doing drugs, I like to touch the line of death. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly. There was somebody, Marina Center.
Yeah.
Somebody in the late night. I used to go every day at late night, 11 o'clock. I was allowed to break curfew for my sober living in order to go to that meeting.
Yeah.
And somebody in that meeting was speaking. I forget who his name was, but he said, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to be conscious anymore.
Yeah.
And that I related to a lot. I knew exactly what he was talking about when I heard that. It's been stuck and ingrained in my head for so long now. It's been 6 years, and I still say that all the time.
Yeah.
Because it rings true today. So when did you move to LA?
So I moved to LA. It was October of 2017. And it wasn't till the only reason why I came out here was just because it's easier to be homeless. Somebody offered me a flight out here to go to rehab, and I had no intentions of getting sober, no intentions of doing anything except for keep getting loaded. But I was like, oh, being homeless in Connecticut sucks. The weather is so bad. So I'll take your flight, I'll go to your rehab for a week or two and just bounce. And so that's what I did, and the rehab was in Anaheim. And so I just slowly, after I left that rehab, I just slowly made my way north up to LA and just ended up on Skid Row. So I was on Skid Row for a couple months and still no intentions of getting loaded. Of getting sober, I'm sorry. And, it was just, I was comfortable, and I at this point, I had accepted that this was going to be my life years prior, that I was just going to live the rest of my life a lonely heroin addict, and I'm going to die a lonely heroin addict, so when you come to an acceptance of that sort of thing, it's just okay, guns blazing, you know what I mean? Let's fucking go.
Yeah. How did you? I've had somebody else on the show that lived on Skid Row for 5 years.
Wow.
And he survived daily by going down to the bus station and having a sign saying, I am a college student and I need money to get back home on the bus, and had this whole story of what he needed money for.
Yeah.
He would hang out there daily and he looked clean cut enough to pull it off. And then he was then my addiction really took hold, and I looked like a drug addict, and I had to get into stealing shit in order to find my habit, because no one would believe that I'm this college kid anymore.
Yeah.
How did you afford your habit living on Skid Row?
At that point, I was still able to manipulate my mother. And I think what I was doing was I was just lying and manipulating to her, saying that I was still in like some sort of treatment, or I was doing good, like, oh, I'm like living at my buddy's house, and like I'm just trying to get on my feet. But like I need help, I need help like paying for rent to sleep on this couch, and I need groceries, So I was still manipulating my mother, because that's what I do when I'm in active addiction. Like I hurt people that are closest to me. Like I won't hurt anybody else except for the people closest to me.
Yeah, you're an only child, right?
No, I have an older stepsister,
Okay.
but she wasn't really in my life that much. So, I mean, I basically was an only child, and my father passed away when I was really really young. So basically, it was just my mom and me,
Yeah, so that's why it was easier to manipulate her, because it's not like she had other kids to where she was funding their habits too.
Yeah, exactly. And my sister was a normie, even though she wasn't the best person at the time. My sister and I have a relationship now, but yeah, dude, it was just me manipulating people into whatever I could do for whatever money I can get from them, and then eventually it was just, I never really had that aha moment, I never really was like, oh, this is rock bottom, I need to get sober. Because for me, my rock bottom just kept getting deeper and deeper. So there was no really like, oh, I'm at such a bad place, I need to change my life. There was none of that. It was just, it was just, and I was manipulating my mom into paying for my health insurance at the time too. So like I was like manipulating the system, and I would go into a sober living for a couple days to sleep in a bed, eat some food, and then leave. And I was doing that here and there, and then eventually, the last place that I got sober and stayed sober at, it's Fine for Recovery. It's on the west side of LA, and I walk into a spot, and that's where I met Zach Ass. And Zach Ass, me and him just like, we like instantly clicked. I think what it was is like I had an old tattoo of a heartogram on my arm that I eventually got covered, but and he I think he saw that, and he was like, oh shit, you got the heartogram tattoo, and I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, all right, cool. Yeah, like I already knew who he was, because he already had some online presence. He had already filmed that cactus stunt with Steve-O, so I already knew who he was. And at the time, he was looking for a filmer, and I grew up filming skateboarding and doing jackass type stuff. That's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to somehow work in the skate industry by filming, and then also do dumb stuff with my buddies and travel the world. So that's kind of what I've always wanted to do. And so when he told me he needed a filmer, I was just like, yo, dude, I've filmed skateboarding my whole, like a huge portion of my childhood. Like I know what I'm doing when it comes to cameras and stuff. And he let me tag along for a shoot, and the shoot that we did, it ended up going really viral at the time. And he was just like, he's like, yeah, dude, you're in, and it was kind of like, and he had this other thing going on with MTV. He was making a show called Too Stupid to Die. So I was along towards the tail end of that, just helping with like promos and commercials and stuff, and like flying back and forth to Indiana to film some extra stuff for that. And it was basically like, I obviously owe a huge portion of my sobriety and my life to the program in AA. Like I'm an AA guy, so obviously that's a big part of it. But the other big part of it is literally me finding my purpose and my passion. And it just so happened to like fall in my lap when I met Zach, and
I saw you post maybe a couple months ago a video of you as a kid doing some jackass shit.
Yeah.
And it said something like, if the young me could only know what I was doing right now, or some shit like that.
Yeah. My caption was, this little dude would be stoked to hear where he ended up.
I knew it was something like that. I saw that and started laughing. That was a funny video.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, because for those who don't know, now are you considered a co-host of Wildride?
Co-host of Wildride, full-time co-host of Wildride. I've been doing that for God, dude, time's flying. year and a half now, maybe coming up on 2 years. And basically, you know, Steve-O, and the boys are like family now, and I cared very deeply for those dudes. They have taken very good care of me, and it just all made sense. You know, it was just like we're all sober dudes, and we all have the same goals in mind, and we all just at the end of the day want to be a good person and just be the best versions of ourselves. So it just made sense, you know, and it came at a weird time in my life, man. Like at the time, I just got finished. I had a show with Zach. It was our own show. It was me and Zach. We had our own TV show with Fail Army, and it had just aired. We had just got greenlit for a second season, but Zach was dealing with some personal stuff of his own at the time, so we had to we had to decline the second season, unfortunately. And I like, you know, some resentments were coming up on my end because I was like, dude, the second season, that means more money and more exposure. Like, this is what we do, you know? And so, but we had to say no. And Steve-O kind of was just like, dude, you're going to be okay. Like, everything that you're doing has been like the right decision. And if you just keep doing what you're doing and just be a good person, things are going to work out. And so I was like, a little pissed, but I have to believe him, you know, and it did, dude. He kind of like he kept having me come to some of his shoots, you know. To Steve-O kept coming. I would go to his shoots, and I would help film here and there, you know, like whatever they needed me to do, I would just help whatever they needed done. And eventually, you know, it just became more of a full-time gig, and then they would have me produce Wildride for a little bit. And when I say produce, I mean it's just setting up a podcast, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember taking a selfie in the van and posting it, and the caption was, "One day I'll be in this seat, not just helping set up." And what I meant by that was I wanted to be a guest on Wildride.
Yeah.
Never in a million years did I think a co-host would come into the picture. Never. I would never even think of that.
Yeah, you do a great job, man. I liked that interview with what the hell is his name? The Situation, Mike.
Yeah.
That was a good interview. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
But why didn't you do that in the van?
We didn't do that one in the van because we were in New York City, and when we're not on the West Coast and we're on the East Coast, we usually have our tour bus on the East Coast and we do it on there. But in New York, we can't take the tour bus, so we have to rent studios. So whenever we have people in New York, we'll just rent studios out there. Like we had Action Bronson, Situation, a couple other people I think too were out there.
Yeah, because people don't realize that you record in bunches. This way you can release them weekly.
Yeah.
I try to do that, but then I end up being like, fuck it, I'm going to release one every day because, you know, like right now I'm closing on 200 episodes.
Yeah. Sick.
So I'm like, I don't want to wait until March to hit 200. Yeah. I want it. And then I was like, well, recovery month is coming up. So I might as well release one every day for recovery month.
Yeah. That's
it. I got like 20 episodes lined up in the next week and a half that I'm recording.
Hell yeah, dude.
While I'm maintaining a full-time job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we try as hard as we can to stack up episodes. But, you know, like, for example, like right now, we don't have any in the can. And we release every Thursday, so we have to figure something out for this Thursday. But the boys are on tour right now. I took some time off from touring just because I'm dealing with some stuff here in LA that I have to do. And so like I think when they come home from tour, Hollywood. They come home from tour in a couple of days, so Steve's gonna have to. And Steve moved to Nashville full time, so we're just constantly back and forth like every month. And so now we're in kind of like a little pickle. We have to figure something out in the next couple of days.
If you need a guest, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, it's awesome because I remember when you were on here before, you talked about just wanting a chance to like hang out with him, and now you're sitting there in the seat.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, and so I think that's fucking awesome that you end up, finding yourself in the seated crossroad now and getting to interview all these people, because I know I get a lot out of my interviews, but I can't imagine what it's like to like sit down with people that you've looked up to or people that you've known from being in shows and comedy and comedians and all that kind of different shit that he gets.
Yeah, I consider myself very fucking lucky, and I'm very grateful and blessed. Having a podcast that has any sort of success, especially our kind of podcast, because we don't like our gimmick is like we're a traveling podcast. Like we go wherever the guest is. We don't have the guest come to us. We go to the guest. So the podcast just allows me to just travel the fucking world and meet all these amazing people and have these conversations that you would never have if I wasn't in this position. And like it's taken me around the world, bro. Like Australia, UK.
Did you have problems with your criminal past traveling?
Yeah. So it took almost 4 months and 4 months and a really expensive lawyer for me to get into Australia. But the UK, not so much. Romania, not so much. I'm not allowed in Canada still.
Canada's like, we don't want you.
Yeah, they don't want me. But yeah, I mean, like again, that's Steve. He helped me out. Like he helps me out in areas where like I might not be able to afford. Like I can't fucking spend that kind of money on an attorney just to like go to a different country. Like I don't have. And he just, I don't know what the fuck the dude sees in me, dude. Like, it's just like, he's a brother of mine now. I love him. He's one of my best friends. And he,
I think it's the hustle, man. You have that addict mentality when it comes to your hustling.
Yeah.
Like I saw a meme the other day and it was something like, nobody has the hustle to make money like a crackhead. So act like a crackhead today and make that money.
So true. It's so true. And I was thinking about this yesterday actually, because I'm in this weird place in my life, with me and my wife and I splitting up, and I don't like I feel I don't have the hunger that I used to like just a couple of years ago, because bro, like 2020, 2021, those 2 years, I was just so fucking hungry. I was just like, I want this. I know what I want. I know how I'm going to get it. And I just went and I did it. And a lot, like some of the best memories of my life came from those 2 years. And I was looking back at some of my past content and I was just like, fuck, dude, I don't feel as hungry as I was there. And I'm trying, and I don't know, I do have a lot of personal stuff going on right now, and I'm slowly crawling out of the fog.
You feel like you plateaued and you got as high as that you're going to get?
Not plateaued, but maybe burnt out. Maybe I was just I've been so burnt out. Like, bro, like the last 2 years, it's been nonstop touring, and then the podcast, So I think I was just very burnt out, and then now on top of it, everything with my ex, and I think I just needed some time. I think taking time off from touring was a very good decision on my part. I just needed some time to just like recharge and take care of some shit here at home and figure out like what, like, I created a TV show, like a sketch comedy show, and spent all this money to create the pilot and the pitch deck and the sizzle, and this was last year. This was like January of 2023, and I just put it on the shelf because I was so busy with Steve and the podcast, and then I met my wife, and then all this other shit, and so I just put it on the shelf, and I didn't really have the time or energy that it deserved for me to try to make it a reality. And now that I'm home and I'm here by myself now, and I have a lot of time, and I've just been processing and meditating and really writing a lot, and I just started writing a book, so that's another project that I want to really work hard on. And
yeah, there's that hunger. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's something new that you can like sink your teeth into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because and writing is important. If you're an AA guy, you want to be writing shit down. You want to be journaling.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself getting back into meetings since you've been back home?
Yeah. I'm very grateful that like Steve and all the other boys in our team, most of the guys are all sober. So whenever we're on the road, we still hit meetings. You know, not as much as we should, but we still get it done. And then after everything with my ex, we separated just 2 months ago, and I was in a pretty dark spot, and I was like sitting in my misery. I was just so fucked up over it, and I was just like, oh, nothing. It's like this isn't gonna get better. Like I'm just gonna be miserable for the rest of my life. Like this really fucked me up, and I just like I need to get back to what I know works and get back to the basics, and that's like hitting meetings and being of service, and just talking to other alcoholics. And as cliche as it sounds, it's just like you got to help the newcomers and you got to do this, and it worked, bro. Like this was like 3 weeks ago that I was like, okay, let me start hitting meetings, and then I just started hitting meetings more, and I feel so much better, and it's crazy how it works, man.
Yeah, you're right, because that cliche happened to me. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor.
Yeah.
I stopped having a connection with my higher power.
Yeah.
And I was using cannabis in my recovery. Like the sober living I went to in LA was called High Sobriety.
I know High Sobriety. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went there and I learned how to use cannabis as a medicine, right? And then my dad passed last June. And when that happened, I started smoking all day, every day.
Yeah.
And that's when I stopped talking to my sponsor. That's when I stopped caring about meetings.
Yeah.
I stopped doing my podcast for a long time because I couldn't get up the energy to do it. And I found myself, with psychiatry, manipulating my doctor to give me scripts of Ativan, abused that. And then he gave me a script of Valium. And me being the addict, I started Googling, can you snort Valium? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm banging out lines of Valium in my office and hiding away and not dealing with any of my shit.
Yeah.
So when I quit benzos, I quit smoking weed too, because I figure that's a trigger for me is smoking. So, I quit that. So now I'm into gambling. So I'm in GA on the weekends. I do GA every weekend, and I do NA every day at noon.
Yeah.
Because I was going to AA, but they're really conservative here, and they don't like hearing about drugs. And in my meetings that I was going to, so I was kind of like, fuck it. I can talk about alcohol and NA, but I can really sink my teeth into my major problem lately with benzos.
Yeah.
So I found myself going to NA every day. It's a meeting out of Providence, actually, that I do. And I have a sponsor in NA, and I'm trying to get a sponsor in GA. I have an AA sponsor.
Yeah.
He happens to live on the floor below me.
Oh,
so
sick.
I'll be outside smoking cigarettes, and there's no escaping him. He's like, did you do a fourth step yet?
Yeah.
You do that fourth step? And I'm like, shit, I got like, there's no escaping.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes ago.
Like, look, dude, it's all the cliche sayings that they have in all the programs, they're all true. They're cliche for a reason, it's because they're all true. And it's a lot of hard work. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you do it right, then it's a fucking miracle. It does miracles for you. And I've had some fucking dark times in my life, like very, very dark times in my life that I thought that I would never be able to live down and never be able to forget and never be able to move on. And
what's the darkest you think?
What was the darkness?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was just years of trauma and death. Like, dude, I was just surrounded by death for so long. So many of my best friends have died, and I've been there, like, holding them while they're dying, and just the getting arrested so many times while I'm young, and it's just like shit that a normal person just doesn't go through. And And then like my mom being an addict, and like my sister not being in my life, and my grandmother being an alcoholic, my uncle being a heroin addict. I was just surrounded by trauma, and I'm not going to use that as an excuse of why I was getting loaded, but it definitely played a part. But the program, dude, like, and I'm not the type of guy to sit here and like push the program. I'm not an AA thumper. I'm not like a big book thumper. I'm not going to be like, dude, you need AA or else you're going to die. I'm not one of those people. But it fucking saved my life, and I could only speak on my experience. So it saved my life, and that's really, that's it.
Yeah, you're a living testament as what could happen if you what is that cliche? I take the cotton out of my mouth and put it in my ear, take the cotton out of my ears and put it in my mouth.
Yeah.
Which, if you aren't, if you're a normie watching this, that means we need to shut the fuck up and listen.
Yeah. Because like, it's super simple, man. It's us as alcoholics and addicts. We think we know what's best for us. Obviously, that's not the case. We don't know what's best for us. Because if we did, we wouldn't be ending up in jails, institutions, or fucking dying left and right.
Yeah, we wouldn't be sitting in the chair in AA if we thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second we start to have that tiny perception change of like, oh, maybe I don't know what's best for me, so maybe I should just shut the fuck up and listen to somebody who has a little bit of fucking experience. Yeah. Then shit starts to work out a little bit, and then.
Yeah, it makes complete. With GA, there's no Gambler Anonymous where I live, but I found meetings on Zoom based out of Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and I figured if I'm gonna get recovery from anybody for gambling, it's the people that live in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
And so I do their meetings.
Yeah,
and I learn a lot. And like today, it's funny. I celebrated 30 days the other day.
Oh yeah, congrats!
Since my last bet, and I start off each time I talk, I say, I'm JD, I'm a compulsive gambler, I'm an addict, and I'm an alcoholic. If you name it, I'm probably it.
Yeah.
Like, because that's how I feel. I feel like I'm all of these things.
Yeah, bro. And that's totally fucking, like, bro, I'm the same way. I was an extremist in my addiction. I'm an extremist now. No matter what it is, I take it to the extreme. Whether it's fucking gambling, I had my gambling times. Whether it's fucking sex, I'm probably addicted to sex now. Like, especially, I'm addicted to love. I'm codependent. I'm fucking, it's just now being sober from drugs and alcohol for almost 7 years. Now I'm dealing with feelings and emotions and frustration sober and having to feel these emotions, But like, bro, like. Alcoholic, drug addict, gambling addict, sex addict, fucking any sort of addict, that's me because I'm an extremist. I just love to fucking not feel my emotions and my feelings sober. That's it.
I've talked about it before on other podcasts and in meetings, but I always say I was addicted to more.
Yeah.
Like more of whatever's filling that void in me.
Yeah.
Is what I'm addicted to, and I just crave that, and I should be in SLA, like I should be going to those meetings, like per my wife. It's bad when your wife's like, listen, I think you get an SLA meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no joke, dude. It's us as alcoholics, we just crave we crave that instant gratification, and no matter what area that is, whether it's sex, love, gambling, nicotine, fucking whatever, we just crave it.
Yep, I still smoke. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing that I'm not holding on to. I need to quit soon.
Yeah,
my wife just quit vaping, and she used a patch, and she's like, "You should use the leftover patches that I have." And I was like, maybe on my 38th birthday, because I'm not quite ready yet. I've been smoking 25 years now. And I should be ready. I should be stopping, but I still enjoy a cigarette after a meal, and I still enjoy getting in the car and lighting up a cigarette and putting the window down.
Yeah.
So I'm at that point where it's like, I know I have to quit, but I am not ready. And I feel like that's where my addictions always are, where like, I feel like I need to quit, but I'm always just not ready for that next step because I know all the negatives, and I start focusing on the negatives to quitting as opposed to focus on the positives for quitting.
Sure. Yeah. I heard a quote yesterday or recently. about discipline, right? And it fucking hit me because I still struggle with vaping, and it goes something along like this. It's like discipline is the highest form of self-love. And because if you don't have discipline to whether it's a bad habit or step work or whatever, hitting a meeting, discipline, like whatever, you're not prepared. You're not helping your future self, which is you're not loving yourself.
Yep.
So when I heard that, I think I heard it on Instagram or something. I was just like, oh fuck, And I mean, dude, we have a lot. We're never gonna be perfect, obviously. The cliche saying, progress, not perfection.
It's on my arm. It was I had one tattoo going into rehab, and when I came home 4 months later, I had 16. And 6 years later, we counted one day, it was 55. But the first one I got, I found a tattoo shop along the boardwalk in Santa Monica or Venice. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, I've been saying this for 30 days. So it was like my first day in sober living. And I got that. And then I met Jules Muck and I started hanging out at her house for meetings. And she would just sit there in meetings and do tattoos in her front yard.
Yeah.
And not all of them came out perfect, but I'd rather have the story of, I hung out at this artist's house and she did it in her front yard in beautiful Venice.
Yeah. I know Jules. She's a wonderful person. And I mean, same dude. When I came out to LA, I maybe had like 3 or 4 tattoos. And then when I started to, I don't know, like throughout the first year, I was getting like small ones here and there. And then when my career started to take off, all these artists started to DM me and was like, yo, come by the shop. I got you for free. So like, I was like, oh shit. I've always wanted to be covered in tattoos, but I could just never afford it. So now it's like, okay. So I would just like, I would take up their offer and like meet these cool artists and just like, they would like love to fucking tattoo me. So I'm like, okay, sick, dude, let's do it. Yeah. I got lucky.
We got a tattoo machine. My wife did. She's usually a painter, and we were like, "Fuck it, let's get." It's like $400 for all the like accessories and the actual gun itself, and we were like, "Fuck it, let's just do it." And she's giving me 10, and most of them are small. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just like it was cool to, and you know how it is when you have a bad tattoo. Nobody notices it because you have so many that they don't focus on the bad ones. They just see the other ones.
Yeah.
So, and then she has MS. So like her hands aren't as good as they used to be. So she hasn't given me a tattoo in like a year now. But she's starting to get her grip back. So it might be tattoo season coming up.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, man, that like, I'm just not done yet. I still got other ones that I want. And there, none that I regret at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's fucking sick. And you're hilarious on Wildride. Every time I see that, I start laughing.
Thanks, man.
Did you do America's Got Talent? Is that what you did?
I did, yeah. I did America's Got Talent. We made it to the finals, which is insane to even think about. And then I did Romania's Got Talent, which is fucking ridiculous. And so they flew me over to Romania first class, which was amazing. And it was me and the Lazy Generation. They're some of my best friends from the UK. They have their own stunt crew.
I follow them too.
Yeah, they had a show on Comedy Central UK, and Curtis, he reached out to me when they were out in the States, and they needed an extra person for America's Got Talent. And I'd never met them in person or anything. We talked here and there on Instagram, and he just reached out one day and he's like, hey man, you want to do America's Got Talent with us? And I was like, duh, like, of course. And I was like, when is it? He goes, you have to come right now. And I was just like, okay, sure. So we fucking go over to Pasadena and I meet everybody for the first time and we figure out what we're going to do. And it was kind of more of like a joke, right? Like we were like, dude, there's no way they're just going to keep pushing us to the next round. Like we're just a bunch of degenerates, like getting kicked in the nuts. And they kept pushing us to the next round. And by the end of it, we're just like, we don't want to do this anymore, you know, and like we made it to the live eliminations, and they finally kicked us off, and so that was fun. And then Romania's Got Talent reached out to us, and they're like, yeah, come out to Romania and do it. So I did that too.
I was wondering why you went to Romania. You're like UK, Australia, and Romania. I'm like, one doesn't fit with the others.
Yeah. I mean, dude, the last 2 years have been pretty fucking gnarly. You know, I've had that show. I had the show with Zach, the podcast with Steve. There's so many crazy things that so much has happened in the last 2 years that I can't even remember most of it. Just it's like almost like a blur, dude. It's like, and I'm very grateful for it. You know, for somebody who was homeless as fuck 6.5 years ago, just shooting heroin, to where I'm at now. You know, it's like I live in the heart of Hollywood. I walk out my door, I see the Hollywood sign. You know, it's like it's that dream that I had when I was 12. You know, the Hollywood dream. And I'm fucking living it, baby.
Yeah, that's fucking sick, dude.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you because you know. I remember seeing you doing fucking crazy shit in the parking lots of, I think it was a CA meeting on Sepulveda. And
meeting.
Oh, I love that meeting. That meeting would hold like 200 people packed in there.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of rehabs that went there. I was in rehab when I would go there.
Yeah.
I would go there on a Saturday night at 8:00. And it was in walking distance to my sober living. So I would go there at 8:00. Then I would Uber to Venice to Jules's house for her 9:00 meeting in her front yard.
Yeah.
And then I would either walk or Uber, depending on how I was feeling, all the way to Marina Del Rey to go to Marina Center late night.
Yeah.
There was a few nights where I couldn't afford Uber, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm hoofing it.
Yeah, bro. You know, those days, honestly, are some of the best times I've ever had in my life, you know, because life was simple. You know, in the moment, it seems so difficult. But, like, life compared to now, like, life was so simple back then. All we had to worry about was staying sober. That's it. You know, life is just, it's a lot more full. I'm not saying it's not good. It's amazing. But we have a lot more responsibilities and a lot more people that count on us.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I take care of my wife.
Yeah.
Because of her MS, and she does recovery Dharma. She's not really in AA or NA, but it's like the Buddhist version of the steps.
Yeah, kind of like refuge.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different form, and she does her meetings every day at 9.
That's cool.
And instead of a sponsor, you get a mentor.
Yeah.
Instead of the steps, they're called inquiries.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's different things, and it's just like it reminds me of NA because there's a lot of question and answer. Like, you know, I have the NA workbook around somewhere where it's a lot of questions that you're writing inside the book and all that kind of shit. I've never been through the steps of NA.
Yeah.
I went through them in AA, 6 years ago, but I kind of feel like I rushed through it and I didn't like take the time to sit with it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I didn't do my 4th step yet on my AA, because I figured I'm just going to do one 4th step and hand it in to NA and then hand it into AA and knock them both out.
Yeah.
But thanks again, dude, for coming on the show. And
of course, man. Anytime.
I'm trying to fill up this month. It's recovery month in September.
Yeah.
So 1 episode every day, and trying to get to the 30th with it. I did this 3 years ago when I first started my show in 2021.
Yeah.
And I released an episode a day for all of September.
Yeah.
And then you were in this bunch. I released an episode a day from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day.
Wow.
And to just put awareness around addiction during the holidays.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you were in that batch of 40 episodes in a row.
What year was that?
It was the end of 2021.
The end of 2021. Okay.
Yeah, because my show started in July of 2021.
Yeah.
And I've taken breaks. I'll record in bunches and then put out a bunch, take a month or so off, because this is like a mini meeting. A meeting is considered alcoholics having a conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I only do one meeting a day for each thing.
Yeah.
So now these are like my full meetings. I'll sit on Facebook and I'll see people's before and after, and I'll be like, "Oh shit, you got a crazy before and after. I want to hear your story."
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll say, "Hell yeah, I'll do it." And I have them lined up now, man. Like I'm going to be busy for the next week and a half.
Good for you, dude. Keep it going.
I just had Amsterdam on the other day. I've had 7 from Canada, 1 from Costa Rica, 4 from the UK, 1 from Ireland, 1 from Scotland, 1 from Sweden, and 2 in Australia, and now Amsterdam. So covering the fucking world, bro. I'm working on a dude in India and trying to get him on the show from India.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, covering all bases, man. I appreciate you sitting down and talking again. And
good for you, man. I'm stoked for you. Good for you.
And if you want to see more of Vinny's crazy shit, you can. What's the Skinny Vinny on Instagram? All one word.
Yeah, all one word. Skinny Vinny.
Yep, because you guys do some awesome shit on there. So I always like to put it up.
It's just Skinny Vinny on Instagram, and then check out the podcast every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on YouTube and anywhere you get audio podcasts. And it's Wildride with Steve-O.
Yep, and it's definitely hilarious and worth a shot checking out.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, have a good night, bud.
Yeah, you too, dog. Later.
See ya.